Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Rezvani Beast Alpha in multiplayer in Asphalt 8 for the second time. People have been requesting me to do this a bit below 1700 rank for a while, so I decided to do it now. My tuning is 1505-5055. Now this is a different tune than I had expected to do, and I'll explain why I did that in a little bit. In this first race here, we are facing a McLaren X2 at rank 1679, and also a Max Prode R8 SE. Now, you may notice that this car doesn't accelerate as fast as it would if I had put a bunch on acceleration like I had thought I was going to. I had debated doing that. However, I realized that the increase in acceleration that I would get would not be worth the 3 miles per hour decrease in top speed that I would have by not maxing nitro, which I have done in this tune, and it has made this car go 303 miles per hour instead of 300. Now, when a lot of cars around this rank are going like 306 to 310, maybe even 312, that 300 to 303 can be pretty significant. For example, the X2 at that rank can go around 305 to 306. At 300, he would probably be able to catch up. But at 303, it's a bit more difficult for him. So this was definitely a debatable decision on my part to do this tune, but from what I have seen in the races that you will see throughout this video, it was a good choice, and I did have some very good results with it. So we come first in this race ahead of that X2 and R8 SE, who somehow did not get knocked down near the beginning of the race when I squished him to the side. So now for our next race, which is on Sector 8 Reverse against an M2 SE at Max Pro, an MP425, and another Max Pro R8 SE. Now, even though that MP425 was able to shoot ahead at the beginning, we managed to overtake him around this turn, then he goes over, somehow doesn't knock us down, and then we're able to continue on in first place. You see, that lower acceleration really doesn't matter a whole lot. Some may still prefer being able to get ahead at the beginning, but just considering the types of cars that we're going to be facing with much higher speed, I personally find this better speed to be a better investment. There, that MP425 wrecked, and this is only a one-lap race, so we should have the rest of the track to ourselves. So the Rezvani Beast Alpha is quite a fun car to drive. As I said in my Asphalt 9 video about it, if you watch that, they feel fairly close in both games. I mean, they both have good acceleration, average-ish top speed, they both have good handling, and average, or maybe better than average nitro efficiency. They just seem very similar as two cars can get between two completely different games. Now, of course, the one in Asphalt 8 is certainly faster than the one in Asphalt 9. However, pretty much all cars in Asphalt 8 tend to be faster than their counterparts in 9. So here, the Camaro, interestingly, comes in second on Sector 8 Reverse. I do not think that would have happened if the MP425 had not wrecked. So here, we start up about the same speed as this X2. Now, what I noticed, with the increase in nitro and the decrease on acceleration, and this is what we will see in pretty much any other fairly fast accelerating car already, is that the increase in nitro makes the secondary acceleration better. So once you get up to like 100 or so, then it takes off. The lower acceleration means it doesn't get to 100 quite as fast, but after that, it gets up to speed very quickly, which is very useful later in a race when you're not starting from zero. So this X2 is currently right behind us, but because our speed is not worse by like more than 2 or 3 miles per hour, I was pretty sure that as long as I was able to make it around the turns at the end of this track fine, he was not going to be able to catch up to me. I went up this barrel roll, which is not something I always do, but I wanted the extra speed, and then with this car's amazing drifting, we're able to get around these final turns with no problem. This car certainly feels a lot like driving the Apollo. So we have come in first in this race, not too far ahead of that X2, but far enough to win, which I say is a good thing. We also have a couple other not-so-great cars. Now this next race here is on San Diego Harbor against an MP48, an X2, and an Apollo. The Apollo is below 1600, and I was at 100% risk, so that makes sense. This X2 was at 1679. There sure are a lot of those running around. I wonder why. Even with only one on acceleration, we're able to get past all these other cars at the first bit, but they're all clumped up right there behind us. So I knew that I really couldn't make any mistakes. This is one thing you've got to be especially aware of when you're running a car with lower speed than the ones around it. You have to be especially careful about little mistakes. Even hitting a wall could cause them to pass you, and you can't catch up because you have a lower speed. Now, if you're more maneuverable, you may be able to catch up to him around turns, but generally, you just got to drive a lot more carefully and even if your car is very agile and your speed isn't as good, you got to do the speed tricks and stuff. Thankfully, in this race, that guy was not able to catch up, and we come in first. That is actually the X2, the 1679 one, which I think can go about 306. Now for an intense race against two Apollo IEs. In this race, we are facing a 1610 Apollo IE, who is in Champion League actually, and a 1695 Apollo IE, who is nearly Champion League. He was at like 1980 rating or something. Now, one of them tries to get past me right there at the beginning, but I managed to take the beginning turns pretty well, and he still passes me. The Apollo is still the multiplayer king at this rank, and cars like the Rezvani can certainly compete with them, but the Apollo can generally pull out the victory against pretty much anything else around here. The Centenario is second, I believe, and the X2 is third. However, the X2 is probably second for most people since they weren't able to get the Centenario. If you would like to see how the Centenario performs, make sure to check out my two Centenario videos. I made one at 1609 rank and one at 1699. So one Apollo is ahead of us right here, and one is quite a bit far behind. However, I knew that he was probably not going to stay that far behind since they're faster, and the one behind us right now is actually the 1610 one, so he's not as fast as the one ahead of us at 1695. But see, the Rezvani can go 303 at this rank, right? The Apollos can go like 312 or 314, so they're both around 10 miles per hour faster than us. But you can see that they're still not catching up or pulling away all that fast, although it is still happening. Again, if I had put the ones on acceleration, we probably would see a lot more catch-up and a lot more pull-away of the Apollos in this race. If you've got a car with really good nitro, really good acceleration is usually only important at the very beginning of a race, which is why we're doing okay here. Now, this Apollo here goes up here, wrecks on what I believe is the left post, which is right next to that ramp there. I've actually wrecked there sometimes myself, and it is quite annoying, but it allows us to creep ahead into first position not long before the end of the second lap. So we go up this final ramp and around the final turns. This other Apollo is getting rather close, but it's not enough for him to catch up, and we take the victory here against two Apollo IEs. And we also have an unboosted Trion Nemesis in this race, who came in fourth position, not surprisingly. That car just is not great anymore. We also have an FXX who came in last. Now, I am planning to make a video about the Trion at Max Pro. I have not quite Max Pro'd it, but it's getting pretty close. I know I made a video about it quite a long time ago, but I really do want to make a video about the old king of Asphalt 8 at Max Pro. So you can expect that sometime, not sure when, but eventually. Now, in this race, our main competition is a 1695 Apollo IE. Now, he's the one that actually wrecked back there. The car behind us is a Mazda RX-8 Special Edition. And speaking of Special Editions, I am planning to win the Nissan 370Z SE in its R&D if I have enough time for it, because that's always a thing. I tend to now forget to run keys simply because I'm spending more time in Asphalt 9, so yeah, hopefully I can still get it. Also, speaking of SE, I also plan to make a video about my SLK SE at 1679, which yes, it can get to fairly easily. You just have to max it and do 1800, I believe, in the Elite tuning. I'll be interested to see how it compares against some of the newer multiplayer cars like the Rezvani and the X2, Apollo, Centenario, things like that. So the second lap of this race passes without too much happening. Well, practically nothing happened, I should say, and we take the victory by a large margin. That Apollo IE did manage to catch up and pass that RX-8 SE again. Now for the final race of this video, and to suit the final race, we have the most recent track that's been added to Asphalt 8, Transylvania. I think this is the same one that I actually raced in my video about the Centenario. This seems to be a popular one for multiplayer. This is the Citadel Clash. Now for some reason the side was a bit bumpy here, and I wrecked because, yeah, I do not know this track too well, but that other guy wrecked as well, and it looks like the exact same spot. I love this track, even though some people don't. In my opinion, it's probably one of the most fun ones that they've actually added in a bit of a while. I really like the long sweeping curves. It definitely has some inspiration from some Asphalt 9 tracks. At least that's what it looks like for me, because there's some places like right here where you can do wall riding, which is something you mainly only see in Asphalt 9. So now it's time for my general review about this car. It is still a good multiplayer car. provided you can drive it anyway. But even if you can't drive it, it's still pretty good because, as you can see, we're still in first. It has really good acceleration, not the greatest speed, but overall it can certainly win you a lot of races. And we go up some ramps and then go up some more ramps and come in this race first place. And I've noticed that we're getting fairly close to 15,000 subs. When we reach there, I'll start using the new channel icon that I posted about in the community tab. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you've enjoyed and consider subscribing for more Asphalt 8 and 9 content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.